Hello everyone, welcome back to the Megastar Pup Academy. I'm Micah here with Angie. And today's video, it's kind of a wrap up to the health series that we've been on. We had our first video about parasites. The next one was about hernias and hooded vulvas and undescended testicles. And then our most recent one, we had luxating patellas and heart murmurs and under and over bites. Yes. So we've covered some of those topics, and basically those for the purpose of education. Maybe you're encountering that or wanting to research a breed, something like that. There's more education. But today's video is kind of a wrap up. We want to talk more about some real life scenarios that we've had, talking to clients, some of the things that have come up in our own puppies that we've worked with. Angie and I used to work together a little bit.
We did.
On some, we actually had some puppies raised, and I helped with the client communication. Angie was more on the breeding side, and so that we have some past experience working together. We also know other breeders in our area that we've worked with and heard some other stories with as well. So that's kind of what this video is going to be about, just sharing some real life experience of what can happen, what can cause things, what to do, what are the next steps, maybe some questions to ask, maybe what a responsible breeder's response should be. Just some stuff like that is what we're going to cover in this video.
And can I add something?
Yeah.
What a responsible breeder wants to know.
Sure.
So if these conditions arise, which we'll get into this, what the breeder really needs to know, what tools, what information we need to know to help make a good decision.
So Angie, I think the easiest place to start with this conversation is, let's talk about the scenario where, I think we've said in the last video, where typically a vet check happens at like 6 to 7 weeks, the initial wellness check. So maybe let's just talk about what happens in the scenario where, as a breeder, you take your litter of puppies to the vet, or sometimes the vet actually comes to visit you and does like a litter check at your home, which is kind of cool. Still make house calls. So
it is.
It's kind of
comes with a cost.
Yeah.
But
we live in a little more rural area, so vets are a little bit more traveling around, visiting some different farms and locations and stuff, and they make personal home visits sometimes if it's on the right route or whatever.
If you pay their
is there a visit
location
fee?
There is.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's so worth it.
Yeah.
So worth it.
And it's fun, and Angie does a great job. She's always very inquisitive, so like she gets her money's worth out of it by always asking the breeder, or not the breeder, the vet, as many questions as possible about kind of what the current question rolling around in your head is usually.
Or even just the community culture of things that may be arising on the health side. Like, are these conditions...
Kind of getting a pulse on what's going on.
A pulse is a good word.
So I think that's the place. Let's start. So Angie, what happens, what do you do if, let's just use a hernia as an example. What do you do? And let's say in this scenario, somebody has made a deposit on a specific puppy. And the vet check comes back that your puppy that this person has made a deposit on and chosen has a hernia, and it's an umbilical hernia. What would be your next step?
So, and you're talking about at the vet wellness?
Yeah, so you got the vet wellness check back from the vet, and it says that this puppy has a hernia, and it's one that a client has chosen and is expecting and hoping for a clear vet check or that type of scenario. What would you do?
So can I step back to 5 years ago, Angie, and then we'll step into 5 years to the present, Angie. To current Angie.
Okay.
So 5 years ago, I would have waited till the wellness check, and I would have been surprised, right, with the hernia. I might have known that there was something there, possibility, but I probably just waited till that check. And so at that point, then I would reach out to the customer and give them the option to take the puppy as is, explain to them what the hernia condition is, what grade, because I asked my vet to grade the hernias, which she doesn't necessarily like, but I have her do that for me because I need to understand from her education what the severity is. So then we would either allow them to take them home. Sometimes I offered a discount for the surgery to help support the surgery at spay and neuter, or we perform the surgery here. And I'm fortunate enough, you probably know by enough of these videos, that my vet is an educator. So she educates me and also allows me to visually be present. So I've been able to be in the room when she's performing the surgeries, which is really wonderful because it's hands-on. Yeah, it's really great. And so that would have been 5 years ago, Angie. But the current Angie now, usually by 3-4 weeks. She has taught me, because I ask questions, has taught me how to possibly locate them earlier on. So I'm not a vet. I'm always wait for her final approval, her final assessment. But I have learned how to hold them correctly, how to and so I'll know a little bit earlier on what I'm dealing with. And I've actually been able to teach others that. She's like, no, you need to hold them this direction. So you need to hold them under the arms, just to give you a little gauge into my world, but you hold them under the arms. You need an extension. The body needs to pull down with gravity, and then you can feel the actual tissue lining opening.
Sure.
Some are very obvious and large, and you don't even need to do that. But at that point, that's how I deal with it.
Yeah. And then you would call the customer. What was like typically the response? What is a typical response that you get?
Well,
I'm sure it can vary.
This is great. This is why we're doing all this education, because I believe in knowledge up front, and I think it's great to know what the outcomes are, and varying responses. For some people, it was a major concern. Other people were like, oh, I've had that before. My friends had that before. No big deal. We'll wait till spay and neuter. Some conditions, I actually recommend that we just perform it here under my care. So let me go ahead and take care of that for you. And then some people are like, there's varying degrees in what people will accept. And
I've had people just say like, oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I've had people cry. So
That's right. No, I can't believe it's a hernia. So of all the things,
and this isn't just hernias. This is kind of, all the varying things we've talked about.
Right.
The responses definitely vary
it does.
from person to person.
The hernia is probably the easiest fix out of all of them, because it's really a condition that a surgery can be fixed. A cosmetic surgery can be fixed. And there's usually no long-term issues with it as they age. Now, overbite, underbites could have different things. Luxations could come and go. A heart murmur is the same way. Parasites, those generally are
there's a protocol.
Isolated conditions. There's things that a protocol that you follow. So really the hernia is relatively simplistic. It's a surgery. It's whether you perform it now or you perform it later. And now the one thing to add to that, though, is if you're looking for a puppy to be a potential breeding female for you, or male at some point, you may not want that in the genetic lines, because there can be a link to that. And this is going too deep in the weeds, but it can just be isolated cases. It just happened. So. Yeah.
And I would say, like, ultimately, we want you to make a confident decision.
Yes, right.
When I would used to talk with people about selecting a puppy, or maybe they had selected a puppy, I was just open, honest, and then I just wanted people to make a confident decision.
Right.
We want you to be happy, and be excited about what you're getting into, bringing a puppy home. So,
and everyone's conditions are different. Your vet's different. Your environment's different. Your cost factors are different.
Some people can handle maybe future additional cost. Vet costs can vary.
Some people that's a fear, and I don't want to walk that way.
There's not a really black and white answer to a lot of this stuff. It's very subjective.
There's no cookie cutter formula for every family.
But I think the main thing too to hammer home is, like, our heart is to take care of people.
That's right.
We very much care where our puppy's going, the new life that it's going to have. So we're here to work with people, and or at least we are. We want that to be every breeder's mentality,
goal, right?
And that's part of the culture that we're trying to influence here at Megastar, is to really have people that work with people that care about the puppy, where it's going to go, all that different stuff.
Passion is through the whole process. And one thing to just piggyback on that is that we, and Micah and I's experience over the years, have never had a puppy with a condition that didn't find an amazing home.
Right. Yeah.
So I usually tell families, if this is the puppy you've picked and these conditions arise and it's out of your comfort level, then you talk to your breeder, you talk to that situation. Maybe you need to select a different puppy. Maybe it's just not right for your family. And that puppy's home is still waiting for it. And someone will adopt it. We have always had that happen.
And there are a lot of times, we never send a puppy to a shelter.
No.
Never. No. That is never our goal.
No.
There are some special case rehoming programs, though, right? So, like, if a puppy has a very unique condition, there are rehoming programs that work with special needs puppies. Right. And maybe help with training. They educate the people they know what they're getting into. So there is that case from time to time, but never our goal is to have a puppy end up in a shelter, just abandoned or given up.
That's right.
That is absolutely never what our goal is. We never, that has never been the case.
And we've never been there, so that
yeah.
we don't,
Yeah,
we don't ever
we've
intend to be there
exactly.
either. That we're aware of, I should
Yeah,
say, like
yeah.
if that would happen behind the scenes, but it.
Or maybe, obviously once a puppy leaves, sometimes it is out of our control.
That's right.
If we're not notified that, hey, this person can't continue to care for the puppy.
Right.
If somebody doesn't notify us, obviously that's a little bit out of our control.
And it's actually the same thing with the health side of it. If we are never notified,
Yep.
or if a breeder's never notified, then they really don't know. So I've had people ask me questions like that before, like, have you had any dogs with cancer, or have you ever had any puppies returned for this reason, or have they ever called you with this? And I usually say, out of the years I've been raising puppies, if the families don't report back to me, I have no way to know.
Yep.
So if you don't respond, it's the breeder. Like a lot of times the breeder can't fix it, right? It's already permanent, or it's already part of that dog's culture. But if we don't know, we can't fix future.
Let's segue maybe into the scenario where maybe the puppy's been home for 2 or 3 days. Let's talk a little bit about parasites. You didn't have any signs. The puppy went home. Before it went home, it's been 2 or 3 days, and the person calls you and says, hey, my puppy had a fecal test and it has Giardia, or it's a runny stool. Is there something that causes that, or maybe makes it worse, or basically what would that scenario look like for you?
That's a good question, because it's a more common question.
Sure.
And that's why a more common concern, I should say.
Yeah.
So dealing with parasites, that negative fecal, it's just a piece of paper, because the culture, the GI tract of a puppy is always ever changing. And so stress, change of environment, exposure, which is huge. We don't talk about that, because the exposure piece of it is everyone that wants, as a family, would want to say, well, I don't think I exposed them anything. But ultimately, like, just a new yard is an exposure.
Different water.
Different water. We don't have, we
just,
can't, all the conditions cannot be regulated exactly the same. But it's not uncommon for that to happen. And so it can be fearful, and it can be concerning. And if the puppy is not lethargic or showing loss of appetite or weight,
If they have a lot of energy.
Yeah, those are kind of environments you just walk through with your vet. But ultimately, from the breeder standpoint, if that does happen, you should let your breeder know, because they can also potentially do a fecal run on the mother, the condition of the environment.
Or if there's still puppies there.
Yeah, or puppies that are there, see if that's the case. But then also the next step that is so important, and it's always kind of like the missing link to me, and I always have to ask for it, which I probably always will. But if you want to advocate in your situation, is providing documentation. And the first really step to that is that you have to ask for it. Your vet's probably not going to give you the report.
There's different
that says
types.
There's different types of reports.
Testing types. The results obviously vary. Different counts. Different.
AI technology has changed so much of our world as well. And so there are different types of machines, and those come with a cost from your vet standpoint. So some offices carry them, some do not. But those test results, like just having a positive Giardia test without knowing, one, what kind of test was performed, and two, how many of those Giardia cysts are active, right? Is it 0 or 3, or is it 10, or is it 100? Like, what are those numbers? Those are important. From a breeder standpoint, just for us to be able to converse back with our vets, and those kind of things.
And to give our best advice for what next
to move
steps
forward.
to take.
Just really the takeaway from all of that is ask, if you find yourself in a situation like that, ask your vet for documentation, because you're going to get asked on it. Well, an ethical breeder, or ask for it for their standpoint, because they want to see the results.
Yep. What about heart murmurs? So you can have a clear heart murmur at the vet check, and then maybe a puppy goes home. Is it also what can cause, or what happens in that
Stress?
scenario?
Stress is a huge thing. So again, transfer, timing, travel is big. So generally, usually what I like to lay out, and this is just an Angie opinion, but somewhat supported by my vet, is if your wellness check at 6-7 weeks did not show anything, And that puppy then does go home and shows a heart murmur and by your attending vet that you're seeing. Wait it out. Wait a week or two. Unless they think it's a condition that's so extreme, then you need to report that back. But wait it out, because sometimes that puppy just needs to deregulate. It just needs to decompress. It needs to get its system back on track. And we've had so many times when that has just, and grow. Even sometimes it just needs to grow. And then it's...
even with parasites, like sometimes just add a little bit of pumpkin to the food can help solidify the stool, make your puppy not feel so sick.
Right.
Just those little things sometimes, and a puppy will get over it. Like you said, deregulate, calm down, and then find
their immune systems are so young, so young. So that whole environment, they have to level out. And the interesting piece to all of it, which I find so interesting, is that under that 4-month window, we're like hammer, analyze. I have this, I don't have this, I have this, I have this. But then once you get kind of to like cruising speed, I call it, which is at 4 months, once you get that 16-week clearance and you're fully vaccinated, unless you have conditions that you need to see your vet, you're on a yearly visit, yearly for the rest of the life of the dog. And so they're not as critical on what was that in the fecal, because you're on a monthly regimen. So you just have to get that puppy through that first 4-month window, the 16 weeks, depending on when you get your puppy. There's a lot of ebbs and flows, and their system is changing and adjusting. And so,
and all of this is like, again, this is subject, this is general, this is generalized. There are different severities, situations. If your puppy's having diarrhea every day and it's making it impossible for potty training, like obviously we feel for that person. Like we're not saying that feeling is not valid. But we're just kind of talking through how you might respond with the breeder, with your vet.
What breeders need to know.
What breeders need to know to support what's going on and offer their opinion and feedback.
So I always advise.
We are people, like I guess we. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
We appreciate like just understanding that it wasn't, maybe it's not our intention for these things to happen. Right. But they do happen. Yeah.
I have families that often say, the soonest I can get my puppy into the vet is 7 days after receiving them. And I'll say, well, that's your choice. Because honestly, from a breeder standpoint, I really would like for that puppy to be seen under a 72-hour window. The reason being is I need you established. I need them to know your name. I need them to know your puppy. I need them to have seen them, right? To make sure that everything was kind of good. And so if you can get them in at least 3 days before, in case anything would happen. So in that instance you just talked about, in case they do start with diarrhea, just from the travel, diarrhea can lead to dehydration. And so it can be it can be nothing in the beginning and become major quickly. And yet if you had that appointment and had that vet established, it could have been potentially remedied faster and less results later.
Sure.
So the communication with your vet is super, super important. And I really highlight that for my families because I want that relationship. Like I know that I have an unusual relationship with my vet. Like 911, she answers at all hours, right? Not everybody gets that luxury. And so I understand that, but I like my families to at least have an established relationship. Sure. And so that vet is always superior to anything that experience ever leads to.
So that's kind of the initial thing. And like Angie said, I think most times we would say, hey, let's work through it, especially like a heart murmur or a luxation. Some of those things can just be developmental.
Some just need time.
Need a little time. So I guess we would ask that patience a little bit. Just give it some time. The puppy is developing, growing. If it does develop into something, maybe 6-9 months, a year, maybe it requires surgery. I think as a responsible breeder, we're going to take care of that or help you out. I think at least that would be, I don't want to speak for every breeder, but that's kind of where we would fall is, initially it can be a little bit, if there are real costs, maybe we can talk about that a little bit, but typically we're going to recommend, hey, let's give it some time. Let's work through it. And then if it does require surgery or something major later on, we can revisit and see, okay, where can we as a breeder maybe step in to help? And I think that's kind of where we would fall on this.
I'd like to add one thing to that, and that's really that communication is so important with your breeder. So open communication and early communication. That's why being in place with that vet and having those records established already, so you can watch progression or degression either way. But also being in communication, because some of these conditions do require time, but yet we still want them documented. So we want to know that they had a heart murmur at 10 weeks and that the heart murmur either increased or decreased at 14 weeks or 18 weeks, whatever your vet suggests.
Or went away.
Or went away. So you can
there,
see it happening. But if you don't have that communication and then you just spurly call your breeder and say, oh, I have this after a year, but you don't have the history with it, like a responsible breeder wants to walk the walk with you. So.
And that helps us track. Like I think you've mentioned in other videos, adult pairing. It helps us understand if we pair these adults, maybe we had not some good outcomes, or we had really great outcomes,
or more umbilical hernias, or more overbites.
It helps us kind of know what we're working with. So.
And really, feedback is what helps you be able to make adjustments. And so if you don't have feedback, assumption is that all is well. So repeat what you've just done. So from a breeder standpoint, I love to have that because it lets me know this is a good decision also all the way around. So not just health too, temperament is a huge factor to that. The way puppies respond to things. So we want to wrap it all together, but health is huge. It's a big piece of it. And so if we can make differences from a breeder standpoint, we want to do that.
So I think to put a kind of a bow on it, or just kind of wrap it up, this topic it's very subjective. We were kind of talking about it before we did the video. It's like each breeder is different, each person is different, each dog is different. It's very subjective. There's a wide spectrum, severity of the condition, just a person's response, how much of a financial burden they can handle. All these things there's such a wide spectrum of things, but I think the bottom line is that as breeders, we strive for perfection. A responsible breeder will go along with you. We want to know what's going on. We want the documentation. We'll require probably in most cases to have documentation. And so that's part of it. And I think too, as a customer or a client, like you can say no to a puppy if you have not brought it home yet. In most cases, like, you can talk to your breeder about that if you're not comfortable. We want you to be confident in your decision. Maybe there's a financial way to work something out, or who knows. There's different scenarios that you might work with your breeder on to a positive outcome, or they're both, whatever, are happy.
There's a comfort level, a comfort level that every family has in if their puppy would have a health. Something rise like that.
This is overall, it's a very tough subject.
It is.
To cover, again, because it is so subjective.
There's so many scenarios. Like as we're talking, I'm thinking of all the things in the past and be like, well, this family was completely okay with them.
Did you never grow up around an animal and it's very new? Maybe somebody who maybe had a vet, maybe in the family, or grew up on a farm. Who knows?
Like, has way more experiences than we do.
It just there's some, or maybe I've sold puppies to doctors, and they obviously have a lot of knowledge about health and that type of thing. So again, it's very subjective, but there are some just baseline things that we care, and we want to work with you to have the best outcome possible, whatever that is. So. I think that's the gist of the video. That's a little bit more our heart for the scenario. We want to have positive outcomes and work with you, or if you're working with a breeder, hopefully you can find a positive outcome to it all. But I don't know. Hopefully this video shared a little bit more insight into what can happen, maybe pre-adoption, soon after adoption. Later on, I think there's obviously developmental things in a puppy. There are things that need fixed right away. So it can vary quite a bit.
There's steps that you can do from your standpoint if you do encounter this that does help the breeder.
So feel free to leave a comment. I think you can comment down below. We may not be able to answer every question with a direct answer, but maybe leave a comment down below if you're experiencing something. We also have Instagram is another place that we interact with people quite a bit. Maybe you can find us there too, but feel free to reach out if you have a question about something. Maybe it'll lead into a topic of a video.
Sure.
Something like that. If we need to go more in depth on something specific, we have a lot of people asking about. So hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight, a little bit of education, maybe a little bit of entertainment. But we do appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one.